Hey there, Saints, and welcome to Awaken's Sermon Spark Notes. So this past week, we continued in our series of Jesus Year 2 by taking a deeper look at the Sermon on the Mount. And as we shared this past Sunday, the Sermon on the Mount was the most impactful, world-changing speech that had ever been delivered. And it was so because of the tremendous elements, all the different elements of the Sermon on the Mount has come together and impacted lives in so many different ways. The Beatitudes transformed how the world has thought about justice. When Jesus says, I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law, Jesus bridged the gap between the old covenant and the new. When Jesus closed out Matthew chapter 5 with the idea of loving your enemies, he transformed how we thought about love, because we tend to love people who like us back and hate our enemies. And Jesus says, no, my charge is to even love those who are hard to love. And then he continues in chapter 6 with the Lord's Prayer, a prayer that has been prayed by countless numbers of people across time, and as we shared in churches, in foxholes, at bedsides, and it has just transformed how we think about communicating and talking with God. And then the idea that Jesus continues with in Matthew chapter 6, when he says not to lay up or store up treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, when thieves break in and steal, but store up your treasures in heaven. Jesus gave us a picture of where our values and where our hearts should lie in eternity and not that which is temporary. And then moving into chapter 7 and going through the ideas of judging and asking, and then giving those verses context with the golden rule to love others or treat others the way you would have them treat you. That was just a completely transformative idea. And then, of course, closing out and talking about ideas of entering through the narrow gate. And then not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, is necessarily a child of mine. Use discernment. Look at the fruit of their lives and allow the fruit of their lives to define whether or not this is a person you want to have speaking into and influencing your life. All the different ways that as we look at the Sermon on the Mount, our lives and our society and the way that we understand values has been transformed is part of the challenge that came as a result of this past week's sermon, a challenge that I'll repeat today, that for you saints to take the time to read on your own the Sermon on the Mount as shared in Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. And allowing this past week's teaching to act as a guide, to help you through some of the parts that might have been a bit more difficult to understand. Saints, I have no questions this week as much as just a charge, a reminder to just take the time to go through the Sermon on the Mount on your own this week and allow God to speak to you. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic week. God bless.